What's up, YouTube? Flash Speaks back for another video. It's about time to set this clown straight. This guy, Nick Wright, Fox Sports FS1 commentator, I guess if you want to call him that, sports analyst. I mean, pretty much analyzes your paperwork because he's never played anything, never played basketball, football, or anything. Made his bones declaring that LeBron James was better than Michael Jordan, basically because LeBron James played longer without ever taking a break, and that he's 6'8", whereas Michael Jordan is 6'6". Clown who's been proven wrong pretty much at every turn when it comes to that. Now here we go to the Philadelphia Eagles. We got the upcoming game in the Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs. And Nick Wright, of course, being a Kansas City resident or born in Kansas City. I know he has some ties, something like that, but he's clearly a Chiefs fan. He kind of nut hugs Mahomes in a similar way that he did LeBron, or that he does LeBron, So here he's going to give his commentary on why he believes the Chiefs will win. And it's okay to pick the Chiefs to win. There's no problem with that, But here he's asked the question: are the Eagles being disrespected? I'm going to chime in on his answers here because I think this is the most effective way to deal with this guy. Here we go.
The other side of this game, the Philadelphia Eagles. This is what my producer's right here. Philly's been the 1 seed all year and they're favored Sunday. Yet they keep saying they're being disrespected. As a believer in bulletin board material, does this scare you? The thing is, they're not being disrespected by the Chiefs. By the media, maybe. By me, sure. But neither of these teams for this game can effectively play the no one believes in us card. The reason people have some buts about the Eagles are totally legitimate.
All right, we'll see. Go for it, buddy.
Yes, they have a dominant pass rush, and their defensive numbers look great. They also have played.
But despite the dominant pass rush the Eagles have, why the Eagles feel like they're being disrespected is that people are still not choosing anyone from the defensive line as being like even a runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year, despite Hassan Reddick being second in the league in sacks to Nick Bosa, and despite him having more strip sacks and fumble recoveries than Nick Bosa, he wasn't even a candidate. And forget Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons is considered to be better than Hassan Reddick. All right, and as I've said about Micah Parsons before in the past, I have no issue with him as a player in particular. What's happening with him is he's probably the best athlete in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball, probably. And sometimes being the best athlete is enough to be the best player. However, he does not have there's no evidence to show that Micah Parsons is the best player stat-wise. Okay? Right now, what Micah Parsons is proving to be is a player who is very strong in the beginning of the season and then tails off. But anyway, the point is, Eagles fans feel disrespected. Like last night was the award ceremony. Not only did Jalen Hurts not get the MVP, which is fine, because I knew they were going to give it to Mahomes once Jalen Hurts went down with the injury, but he didn't even get the Offensive Player of the Year. They decided to go with Justin Jefferson, and I don't know what the voters are going with. And like I said many times previously in videos of mine, I don't really care about these particular awards because they're in the hands of people who are not experts. They're in the hands of media people who write narratives, right? And if narratives don't fit what they want to write, they'll just vote other than, or they're very reluctant to vote against, the narrative they have set already. Anyway, let's let this guy go ahead, man. I'm talking too much, my bad.
The worst collections of quarterbacks you'll ever see. And when you look at the only true quality quarterbacks they have played all year, you say Dak, you say Rodgers, you say the Prince that was promised, you say Jared Goff. Every single one of those.
Well, right there, okay, that's actually 4 quarterbacks right there. All right. Now, Dak Prescott was not available the first game, right? So you don't count. But normally we would play Dak twice a year. But he mentioned Lawrence. He mentioned Dak Prescott. He mentioned Aaron Rodgers, who some people is put him top 10, overall. And then also Jared Goff, who, I don't believe he's great, but he had a pretty good season. But he's missing Kirk Cousins as well. Now, despite what you think of Kirk Cousins, he is a player that has the stats, and they in the Minnesota Vikings running offense that one has to respect. Because it's more than just playing quarterback. You have to stop the quarterback from connecting with the wide receiver. And if Justin Jefferson is good enough to be considered the offensive player of the year, you have to give the Eagles credit for stopping Justin Jefferson. I'm not going to allow him to sit here and not give the Eagles credit for essentially shutting down Justin Jefferson. That's disingenuous. That's because he's the offensive player of the year, right? Okay. So why he's looking over Kirk Cousins in this situation, boggles my mind. Anyway.
Quarterbacks, aside from the Prince that was promised, scored at least 33 points on Philly. Prince that was promised started that game up 14-0. There was then a torrential downpour, and he started just fumbling the ball. I mean, he had 5 turnovers in that game.
Yeah, okay. This is where, where he starts to lose me. Trevor Lawrence did not score 14 points. Jalen Hurts threw a pick 6 to start the game, okay? So Trevor Lawrence was up 14-0, but it was not because he scorched the defense. It was because of he was helped by the defense. So at best, he scored 7 points, and I'm not even sure that it wasn't a running play that he scored on there. But the Eagles did not do a bad job against Trevor Lawrence. He's just being disingenuous here.
Scored 21. The Eagles, let me get the exact date on this.
Thank you.
Since Christmas Day, here's the entire list of quarterbacks that they have faced. Andy Dalton, Davis Webb, Daniel Jones, and then the Brock Purdy, Josh Johnson combo.
Yeah, this the same Davis Webb from the Texans who took the Chiefs into overtime, right? So he's just going to overlook that. But the Chiefs played Davis Webb at all as well, But let's go ahead.
Take that. You then also take the fact that while everyone likes Jalen Hurts, he has not been the same player since he hurt his shoulder. Jalen Hurts was having an unbelievable season, and then in the Bears game, he hurt his shoulder. Since then, he threw 229 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick against the Giants' backups. He threw 154 against the Giants in the playoff game and threw for 121 against the Niners, 40 yards of which were on an incompletion. He has, in the 3 games since he hurt his shoulder.
Right. And this is also the other thing. I'm not going to go deep into this, but this is more so a stylistic thing. Like when you're talking about a quarterback, to look at yardage, right? Yardage. Let me put it to you like this here. The way Patrick Mahomes plays, now I'm not saying he's not a better thrower than Jalen Hurts, but he doesn't have more yardage because he's a better thrower than Hurts. Patrick Mahomes has more yardage, similar to why Dan Marino had more yardage than Joe Montana. The offense that you're running lends to that. Like the Chiefs, they will actually throw the ball upwards, 30, 40 times a game. The Philadelphia Eagles, by design, do not play that way. They run an RPO style of offense that allows the defense to dictate whether or not they're going to hand the ball off to the running back or pass. The Chiefs are just looking to pass, period. Sometimes the Eagles go into the mode where they're looking to pass. I mean, we can go into the Tennessee game. We can go into the Steelers game where the Eagles saw an advantage with their receivers against the secondary of the opponent and decided to pass the ball. However, when we played against the 49ers, there was literally no reason to do that. Okay, the Eagles aren't the type of team that is going to go out there with the intention of trying to get a bunch of stats. No, the goal is to win a game. So whether or not we're passing for 300, 400 yards or passing for 150 yards, if you're going to win, if you're winning the game, the objective is the same, right? So like that, this point means nothing to me. Because it's just, okay, what you're saying is that the Eagles, because I mean, the Eagles still put up 30 points in these games he's talking about. But he's criticizing the fact that the Eagles have a running game versus the Chiefs who just don't care to run the ball. You know what I'm saying? I've watched Andy Reid for 14 years, so I know these things. And I will also add, I have no desire to play the way the Chiefs play. If the Eagles did play the way the Chiefs play, I would be ticked off. Because I don't believe in just passing and passing and passing. I believe in mixing it up. That's the most effective way to keep a defense off balance, not be one-dimensional, and therefore easier to stop. Anyway, let's go ahead.
Run the ball for a total of 86 yards on 29 carries. He has not been the same guy. And you can say, well, the Eagles' offense hasn't struggled. And if you look at points scored, that's true. But in that Niner game, they didn't have 270 yards of offense. It was the Niners fumbling the ball. It was defensive penalties extending drives. It was the Niners eventually having all motivation.
Yeah, well, everyone gets defensive penalties that extend drives, just like against the Cincinnati Bengals when Patrick Mahomes had ran for the first down and he was pushed in the back and they added 15 yards, which really many people believe that the Chiefs would not have won had it not been for that. So again, he's just disingenuous, man. This guy is a pure clown, and as I listen more, he makes me more and more angry.
Because they were running the veer and the wing tee offense. So, if Jalen Hurts, he doesn't even have to play Mahomes to a draw. If he can play Mahomes to 10-9 rounds instead of 10-8 rounds, the Eagles should win the game. I do not think he can, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs win this game. Now,
that last is the stupidest take I've ever seen in my life. And again, it's the narrative stuff again, right? I get it far as narrative-wise. You know, quarterbacks are bigged up to be the most important element to a football game. I'm not going to argue with you if you believe that, okay? But the reality of a football game is that quarterbacks do not face other quarterbacks. The reality is quarterbacks face the defense of the opposing team. There is not one time, not one moment where Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts are going to go at it to where you can frame it in as a, 10-9 rounds, 9-8 round type of thing. That's ridiculous. Now, the proper way to frame it is, can Patrick Mahomes be more effective against the Philadelphia Eagles defense than Jalen Hurts can be against the Kansas City Chiefs defense? That's really the question. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes versus the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts versus Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the proper way to frame it. I know that's not the sexy way to frame it. I know that's not the exciting way to frame it. It doesn't fit the narrative that people want to push, making the quarterbacks the end-all be-all. But what it is the truth. And when you're analyzing a game and breaking it down, the truth should matter to you. The truth of the matter is the Philadelphia Eagles have the number 2 ranked defense in the National Football League. And the Kansas City Chiefs are somewhere around 14th or 15th, which isn't awful. But when you consider the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles have a top 5 offense in the league, you would have to conclude that their job is a lot easier. The Kansas City Chiefs also have a top 5 offense in the league. But what they'll have to do is go up against the number 2 defense in the league. So one would have to surmise that their job is a bit more difficult. And that's the proper way to frame the game. It's not Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes. That's just not the way it works. Okay? So, like, that works with casual fans who don't know the game, who just are out there to, look for just the big names and all. I don't care about that. A real football fan understands the importance of the trenches. The guys who do the dirty work. The Jason Kelce's who knock guys out the way. The Chris Joneses who make plays. The Hassan Reddicks who make plays. We understand that. The one time we saw Patrick Mahomes lose in the Super Bowl, it was when his offensive line was overwhelmed by the defensive line of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he was running for his life. It was not about Brady versus Mahomes. Actually, that was a very low-scoring game, by the way. I believe it was 16-10, if I'm not mistaken. So, the disingenuousness of this guy, this clown, this nut hugger, this media, whatever you want to call it, is appalling. It's ridiculous. And when people make the Philadelphia Eagles the favorite, it has nothing to do with this idea that Jalen Hurts is better than Patrick Mahomes or he'll outdo Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to come down to that. It's not going to come down to that at all. It'll come down to whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs, which team best executes against the other team's defense, or which defense does a better job of stopping the other team's offense. These are the facts. This is the reality. This is what we'll actually see played out. And this is why his take is just ridiculous. And it's just indicative of a person who doesn't know the game.
The producers want me to give you a score prediction. I'm not ready to do that yet. What I will tell you is this. The Chiefs have either won or lost by 4 or fewer points for 32 games in a row. Blowing this team out is not available. You add to it that the Chiefs have played far tougher competition to get here, and that they are healthier right now than they have been at any point all year. McCole Hardman being out for this game notwithstanding, he was out.
See, and this is the other thing, okay? Like, and this is kind of directed at some of you casual people, because many of you will come into the, to the chat and come into the comments, and you'll bring up this here ridiculous point about the schedule and who played who, and what that hell that has to do with anything. I still don't understand, don't get. He's trying to make the point that the Kansas City Chiefs have played closer and won closer games than the Eagles. And this is some advantage. Why would that be an advantage? What it tells you is that the Eagles have been more dominant than the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, that's really what it tells you. Now, you can bring up the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, they played the Bengals. Okay, I respect the Bengals, but okay, ooh-wee. You know who the Bengals lost to? They lost to the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush. The Cincinnati Bengals, who he's touting as this super tough competition that the Chiefs beat, who they actually lost to the Bengals 3 times prior to that. But whatever the case may be, they somehow beat the Bengals. I'll give them respect for it, even though it came down to just a few points. Field goal, essentially. That same Chiefs team lost to the Dallas Cowboys led by Cooper Rush. So oftentimes, who you beat and common opponents and all of that type of stuff means nothing. Another thing that means nothing is how well you do in these close games. Because the greatest team ever in the close games were this year's 2022-2023 Minnesota Vikings. This Minnesota Vikings team actually ended up giving up more, even though they won, I believe it was 12 games or 13 games, I believe. Though they won that many games, they actually gave up more points than they won by. Let me say that again. They gave up more points than they scored, though they won 13 games. How does that happen? It's because the Minnesota Vikings, in the games that they win by 1 point, they win by 2 points, they win by 3 points. But in the games that they lose, they get blown out. So how does this, whatever you want to call it, this propensity to win close games help you when you run up against a team that's just flat out better? It doesn't matter. What's going to be exposed and shown on Sunday is whether or not the Eagles are better than the Chiefs, or whether or not the Chiefs are better than the Eagles. And you know what's going to determine it? It's going to be determined by the men out there. The Avonte Maddox versus Juju Smith-Schuster. The Darius Slay versus their number one receiver. I'm not sure who that'll be. I don't think Hardman is playing, unfortunately. The Bradbury against their number two receivers. Whether or not C.J. Gardner-Johnson and some of my linebackers can effectively neutralize Travis Kelce, I'm sorry. The offensive lines, the actual men that are out there, the actual roster is what matters. This is why I never cared about this idea that the Eagles, they play this easy schedule. Dude, with this roster, they don't give a hot fuck who the roster is or who the opponent is. They don't care. Had this Eagles team played the Buffalo Bills, it still doesn't matter. The players they have are better than the players on the Bills. If they played the Bengals, it wouldn't matter because their players 1 to 53 are better than the players on the Bengals. What other team you think is so great? The Chargers. It wouldn't matter. We played the Chargers like last year when the Eagles were a team that only won 9 games. The game against the Chargers came down to a 1-point score. What matters is how my guys fare, how my men fare against your men. This whole idea, okay, well, you played this tough schedule, you beat these guys, and what does it matter? What did it matter when we played the 49ers? It didn't matter. These teams you're so, enthralled with have trouble with the New York Giants. Right? So that argument is trash to me. It doesn't matter who the Eagles played and all of that. What matters is who the Eagles have on the roster. Okay?
The last 3 months of the regular season, there is a script where the Kansas City Chiefs start this game out 14-0, and the Eagles are in real trouble. There's also a script where the Eagles keep it close. The keeping it close part, however, the Chiefs have played a bunch of 4-quarter nip-and-tuck games all year, including both of their playoff games. The Eagles have not. I don't know if they're ready for it. Sirianni's first Super Bowl.
Well, the Eagles played nip-and-tuck with the Cardinals. They played nip-and-tuck with the Colts. And before you say, it's the Colts. Well, the Colts actually beat the Chiefs, okay? With Patrick Mahomes out there, with Kelce out there, and all, they lost to the Colts, okay? The Eagles beat the Colts in a close game, which Kansas City could not do. Kansas City were in a close nip-and-tuck game. I'm not impressed with being in nip-and-tuck games. That means you're not all that. That's what it means. If you're in a bunch of close games, it means you're not all that. You should be dominating. Okay? The Eagles were just more dominant than the Chiefs this year. It's just that simple.
Jalen Hurts' first Super Bowl versus Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Give me the Chiefs and give me the beginnings of a dynasty.
Well, of course. You're a Chiefs fan, and I don't have a problem when anyone picks the Chiefs, okay? Right? But his arguments, they just have to make sense. All right? So, man, that's all I got right now. He's not really going to say much else that means anything. Just wanted to refute some of these points that he had, man. And listen, I will be putting out something else with my official prediction, my official score, and so on. So, with that, man, y'all stay safe. See y'all soon. Peace.